Hello, my name's James Gilchrist and this is the latest edition of Cantata of the Week from SDG and the Monteverdi Choir. It's 20 years ago that we all undertook the Bach Cantata pilgrimage. I cannot believe it. It feels like yesterday, but I remember it very fondly. It was one of the absolute highlights of my whole musical career. This week's cantata, BWV 153, is Schau, lieber Gott, wie meine Feind. Behold, beloved God, how my enemies are so cunning and powerful. And it's for the first Sunday in January and dates from Bach's first cycle of cantatas in Leipzig in 1723. Of course, because it's for the first Sunday in January, we performers in the pilgrimage were right at the beginning of the pilgrimage, and I for one didn't quite appreciate what an enormous project we were undertaking, or that I was joining in the middle of, because so much had already been done. The cantata pilgrimage went to a great many different churches and other venues, and indeed the recordings of which, that's the recording of this one, the recordings all sort of echo that, because they all sound a little bit different. The acoustics of each recording are ever so slightly different, and I think that's one of the delights of the whole project. You can really feel immersed in the live pilgrimage, and John Eliot Gardiner's drive and commitment shines through every single one. The Gospel, which this cantata illuminates, describes the Holy Family's flight into Egypt and the murder of the innocents in Israel. And this sense that we're surrounded by enemies and in a perilous position is what underpins the whole cantata. It's scored for strings and voices only. There are no woodwind or brass instruments, and indeed the chorus parts of the cantata are just simple chorale settings. There is no complicated opening chorus number. And perhaps Bach is being kind to his players and singers because they've just had to do the complicated work of Christmas and New Year. And it's indeed exactly how it felt when we were doing the pilgrimage, because we had just had to do a lot of Christmas cantatas and the New Year cantatas as well. The opening two numbers of the cantata bemoan our place, beset by enemies and finding life difficult and begging for help. And the third movement is a delightful Bach bass arioso with a downward motif, yum da 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 dum, which feels like a sort of comforting motif, I think. There, as it were. God is always with you. And then the middle three movements, there's two movements for tenor with a central chorale. The chorale is the Passion Chorale, and the two tenor movements are really quite different. The first one is very anguished and struggling with all of the torments that beset us, and then comes the chorale, and then sure in the knowledge that God is with us, the aria is begging to be overwhelmed with waves of torment, with lots of notes. And then there's another bass arioso, or recitative really, where we're reminded that Christ has already suffered more than we have, and indeed reminding us of his brush with death, even just as an infant at the hands of Herod. And then there's a lovely alto aria towards the end where we have, again in three time, but this time with an upward going motif, yum da 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 dum. And here it seems so hopeful as we look forward to the life to come and the heavenly bliss. And as the parts, the string parts and the continuo and the voice part, chase each other ever more closely, it suddenly erupts into a delightful, joyful allegro at the end of the piece. So I very much hope you enjoy it.